Okay, awesome. So hi everyone. For those watching live or at home after this presentation, this is our alumni panel. So we're going to speak with 3 students today who have studied abroad in the past or are currently studying abroad, to ask them about their experiences and just to give you some helpful advice in planning your education abroad experience. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask in the order that I see our panelists. So I have Bailey, then Allie, then Madeline. So I'm just going to ask that you introduce yourselves in that order, and we'll go in that order in terms of questions as well.
Sure. All right. Well, my name is Bailey. I am a senior here at the University of Wyoming studying communication, and I got to travel to Christchurch, New Zealand, and studied at the University of Canterbury.
I'm Allie. I'm currently in Scotland studying at the University of Stirling. I'm a communications major and I'm a junior.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie. I studied abroad in Adelaide, Australia, and I'm currently a junior studying kinesiology.
Great. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm Shelley. I am the Director of Education Abroad. So I'm glad to be with you all as well. So let's get started on our questions. So can you all tell us what was one memorable excursion or event from your time abroad?
So I'll go first. Memorable excursion that I took was a big 2-week road trip I took around New Zealand with a friend of mine who was actually also studying in Perth, Australia at the time. We went all over. We went to Hobbiton. We got to see the big cities, the small towns. My favorite probably was the end. Us and my friend, one of my New Zealand friends, Jono, we went and saw the sunrise at Godley Head, which is a really cool mountain over the ocean. Got to see the shipping ships go out, and it was bright orange and red. And being from Nebraska, I don't get to see the ocean as much at all. So that's probably one of my most memorable times.
Great. Allie, do you have an event or an excursion to share?
So, I mean, I haven't really traveled a lot since lockdown and everything, but one thing I've really been enjoying is just finding like audio walking tours online, and you can get a lot of them for like free, and they'll like guide you around the city and stuff that you're in. So I'm still getting to see lots of stuff and like finding out more about where I'm living and all that kind of stuff. So I've been really like, I don't know if it counts as an excursion, but that's been a fun thing.
I feel like that's an awesome way to make the best of being abroad during COVID, using where you are and the resources that you can find. So that's great. Maddie, what about you? And Maddie returned early because of COVID. So I feel like we have a broad spectrum represented.
Yeah, for sure. Thankfully, I got to do a lot of stuff. I went a little early, so I got to kind of explore before classes started. But my favorite excursion was probably going to, it was like a wildlife preserve, and like Australia is so famous for like all of their animals and wildlife and stuff. So we like took this tour. It was through the school, and so we took this tour. We got to drive through wine country. We got to go to this wildlife preserve and see kangaroos. We got to hand feed kangaroos, pet koalas. It was amazing.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I could go there right now. Okay.
Me too.
Yeah. So our next question is for any student who is working on planning their finances for their time abroad. So the next question is, how did you budget for your time abroad? And maybe if you applied for any scholarships, mention those as well.
So I went to New Zealand through direct enrollments. So I didn't do exchange program, but the cost was about the same, if not a little cheaper than when attending UW, which was really nice. For me, budgeting, I just made sure whatever food I bought, I ate. But I've been planning to go abroad for roughly about 3 years. So I've been slowly saving up. It's kind of just been a dream of mine to study abroad. So I started early, which I highly recommend. Every penny counts, everything helps. I use public transportation. I did a lot of walking and biking. I only rented cars when I went to do my road trip. So I just saved up and had really cheap meals so then I could spend the money to go on the weekends and try new foods and have fish and chips with friends and things like that. So planning ahead and saving any penny you can really, really helps.
Yeah, I think my answer would be fairly similar. I know I did exchange, so that helps a lot because like Rocky Mountain applies. And then I also had a few other scholarships, like I know communications has one specifically for communications majors, so that was nice. And then also just like taking the bus and like trying to save money that way. There are also lots of like student discounts and stuff, and then just starting early. Like for the past few summers and like during the school year, I've been working and always putting money towards going abroad.
Yeah, it was pretty similar for me. I kind of knew that I was studying abroad for a while, so I kind of saved up from that. I actually went through like before I actually left and wrote down like all of my budgets and stuff and how much housing was going to cost. I did like a weekly meal like budget. And so kind of got a rough estimate of that. And then the Cheney scholarship is also an amazing one that I applied for and got some money from that. So definitely looking into your options for scholarships is a great way to do it.
And I think just like Allie mentioned, we have some that are specific to majors. And then like Maddie said, our Cheney scholarship is our largest one. And I think it's just important to apply for as many as you're eligible for because like Bailey said, every penny counts. So just try to maximize what you can. All right, shifting to academics. What did the process of choosing your courses abroad look like?
So for me, as a communication major, I had my communication or COJO advisor helping me out and talking to him about what classes would work for me, as well as my study abroad advisor, as well as Anna, who was the study abroad and exchange manager at the University of Canterbury. And I really lucked out. She actually came to campus. I got to meet her in person before I went to study abroad to kind of get an idea. But I was a transfer student here to the university, so I had a lot of electives available, which opened that up for me to take kind of a fun class. So they all helped me figure out, okay, what's going to be beneficial to help me towards the core of my major, as well as enjoying the classes I'm going to be taking. I got to take a language, Maori speaking language class, which was really, really cool. So yeah, just being able to talk with all the advisors and have someone that makes sure like, yep, you're good to go. It's going to count. Enjoy your trip. So having courses I really, really, really loved taking.
Yeah, I know for me, they had a catalog of classes available to study abroad students at the University of Sterling. So I was able to kind of like go through those with my advisor and talk about which ones would work. So we just kind of went through that. And then I was also able to talk to like the registrar and stuff and like give them, if the class already had the syllabus listed online, and just give that to them beforehand and like be guaranteed that it would transfer over, right? So that was really helpful. Because I know like I needed a foreign language. So French is one of the classes I'm taking while I'm abroad. But yeah, just working with your advisors and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Mine was very similar as well. Just really working with your advisor really helps. Having a plan kind of when you go into it is also very helpful because then you don't have to stress about like, oh, will this count? Will this not count afterwards? So yeah, my school also had like a catalog online that you could like look, you could get syllabuses downloaded. So I downloaded all of the syllabuses for the classes that I thought would be similar to my major and then sent them to my academic advisor, and then he approved them or didn't approve them, and just kind of went through that process with him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's something too for those who are watching this recording, that, you know, working with your education abroad advisor and your academic advisor is really important before you go abroad, so that you can make sure that you're earning credit that can count towards your degree at the University of Wyoming. And I think these three ladies are a perfect example of demonstrating that you can do it. It just requires a little bit of planning. So the next question is just about your own personal experience. So what did you or what are you learning about yourself during your time abroad?
I definitely learned I can do so much by myself, and when I really put my mind to it, from renting vehicles, booking flights, flying by myself. I'd never been on a plane for that long, but a 14-hour flight, and being spontaneous and things working out. I went to Australia, booked a flight with a friend like 4 days before we left, which usually would make me super nervous, but I've just gained so much confidence in myself and what's out there. My favorite things I like to tell people is that I actually finally learned how to roll my R's. I took Spanish for many years, never could, but one Motory class and I'm rolling R's. So that's definitely something that I've learned both my time abroad.
Yeah, my answer is really similar, just that I'm much more independent, I think, than I thought I was beforehand, I guess. Like, I'm doing a lot more stuff on my own over here. Obviously, because of COVID and stuff, you can't really go and do stuff with a group of people. So just like learning that I can go on walks on my own and like kind of do things by myself to have fun. And I don't need to wait for someone else to invite me along to like go and plan a trip. Like, you can do that on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Very similarly, just kind of like self-confidence and everything. And like I found myself being a lot more outgoing, especially just like not knowing anybody. I didn't know anybody on my trip. So just being able to just kind of like go out and like introduce yourself to your roommates or like all of that different stuff. I also found myself like being a lot more confident in like my problem solving skills, just because like going there, like I had a couple of flights cancel and like had to rearrange all that within like a day, and then coming back with like I got sent home early, so I had to rearrange my flights within like 2 days of leaving. So definitely just kind of like problem solving skills and more outgoing personality.
That's great. Those are the things that aren't the tangible things that we talk about, but what we really hope our students get out of it. So thank you all for sharing. So this is our last question. And for those watching our recording, what piece of advice would you give them as they're planning their education abroad experience? So perhaps something you wish you would have known before you went. We'd love to hear it.
Definitely plan ahead as much as possible. I had some issues with my visa and stuff like the day before and was stressing out and whatnot. And then I called my mom and she helped me figure it all out. So really planning ahead and making sure you have everything that you need. Getting to know people at the Study Abroad office, joining Global Buddies, which is a group that we have with the Education Abroad program. Highly recommend. I always mention that to any of my friends, especially incoming freshmen, because you get to meet people who have studied abroad, the ambassadors, people who are interested in studying abroad, and international students. So just getting involved in that area, even if you're not quite sure if you wanted to go abroad yet, but kind of immersing yourself in that. I spent a lot of time in the Education Abroad office and know all these ladies by name. So yeah, really just planning ahead and making sure you've got clear communication.
Yeah, I think for me, a big thing was like not being afraid to ask questions when I was like unsure about something, because there's so many people like that are there to help you and like figure this stuff out, especially for me, because I had never been abroad before and no one in my immediate family had been overseas or anything. So I was like kind of lost a lot of the time. And so just like remembering that there are people there that want to support you and help you out when you're unsure. So I think that's a big thing. Just like, don't be afraid to ask if you're confused about what to do, whether it's visa stuff or like even picking a university, anything like that. There's so many people to help you out.
Yeah, for sure. For me, like more on like the side of like once you already get there, just don't be afraid to like say yes to things. Like things might be intimidating, they might be scary, you might not have ever experienced anything like it, but that's really where you're going to get those valuable experiences, is putting yourself out there and being open to trying new things and stuff like that. So never say no to something just because it's intimidating.
Those are all fantastic answers. Yeah, I think that's super awesome. So those are the only questions that we had. I didn't know if anybody else had anything else to add or anything that they wanted to mention about education abroad before we finished up this presentation and stopped recording. If not, you're good.
Kind of going off what Maddie said, if you do end up studying abroad, to meet people who are out of your apartment complex. There was, they tend to put international students together if you do go with the university's housing. And I met a lot of really cool people from around the US, but they never went out. They hung out with all the Americans, as we're like, I know Americans. And so going out of your comfort zone and going and meeting people of that country, or I had roommates from Russia, Denmark, and France. So sometimes they're just around the corner, you don't know it. But yeah, saying yes to things that might seem intimidating, like driving on the left side of the road, that took me months to finally just earn up the courage to do it. So, but I loved it. So yeah, highly recommend.
I think that's great advice. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, for sure.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording.